Hey, what's up everyone? It's Bryan from Xact IT Solutions coming at you with another video today, a follow-up video to the SolarWinds Orion hack. I have a lot of good, juicy information for you in this video, so I hope you find it valuable. And if you do, we don't do the ads and Patreon stuff here on this channel. We ask that you just like our video, and if you would, just subscribe to our channel. That's the only fee that we ask for the content that I'm about to bring you today, which I don't think you're going to find pretty much anywhere else until this video hits YouTube. So without further ado, let's jump into today's content. All right, everyone. So today is December 16th, 2020. And we are just on day 2 here of the SolarWinds Orion hack. And as I expected, and a lot of the things I said in my first video, which I will link to down below, a lot of this stuff is coming to fruition. We're starting to see SolarWinds be investigated by the FBI and U.S. Marshals. I believe there was a group of FBI agents, U.S. Marshals, and Texas Rangers at their offices in the last couple of days. And they're just trying to figure out what the heck happened here. Maybe somebody's compromised in your company and we need to get them the hell out. Who knows what's going on. But interestingly enough, they on December 14th, submitted an 8K form, which is required when there's a big event in a publicly traded company. And this is, as you can see up on the screen, this is the form, the 8K form that they ended up filing as a result of the breach. And now there's some very, very interesting things that are happening with this breach that I want to bring to your attention. So let me run down the timeline of what's going on here, and I'll try to fill in some gaps based on information that I have that you might not really find anywhere else. I'm piecing things together from various sources, and I'm trying to give you the best insight to what's going on that I can give you. So on December 13th, SolarWinds acknowledged that hackers had inserted malware into a service that provides software updates to its Orion platform. The Orion platform, as I described in a previous video, is a suite of tools that network administrators can use to manage a network. And it's been disclosed that this software is used in a lot of Fortune 500 companies, like 425 out of 500, and a lot of United States federal governments use this platform. As I have up on the screen, the filing states that roughly 33,000 of the 300,000 customers that SolarWinds has, 33,000 of them are Orion customers, and that fewer than 18,000 customers may have been had the installation of an Orion product that contained the malicious code. You read between the lines there, and that's basically the 18,000 customers that actually updated their software. And it could be here by chance that just because the balance of the 33,000 did not apply this update, they didn't update their systems regularly, and by chance, because that didn't happen, they didn't have the exploit. I actually, I'm speculating there, but I have a feeling that if 33,000 customers had the product and only 18,000 were exposed to the vulnerability, it leads me to believe that they didn't apply any updates after March of 2020, when the malicious code was reportedly added to the software. And then SolarWinds said that the intrusion and compromise to its Office 365 accounts, that basically these hackers were able to access the Office 365 accounts of these compromised companies, and essentially they were basically sitting there reading the emails of people at Homeland, or people at the Treasury Department, people at the Department of Commerce, and we're going to find out what other government entities have been impacted by this. And the common thing that we're hearing is not only was there network access, but the hackers were able to get access to their Office 365 email accounts and sit in there and read emails going back and forth. And I also know that these Office 365 accounts were protected with multi-factor authentication. And, you know, a lot of people put a lot of faith and stock into the security around multi-factor authentication. And these Office 365 accounts were protected with multi-factor authentication, yet these hackers were still able to access these accounts without alerting anybody, which when you have multi-factor authentication on, somebody should get an alert saying somebody's trying to log into your account. So, how were they able to do this? I'm going to tell you right now. Because they had the level of access on the network that they did, they were able to retrieve a token, or it's more or less known as a cookie, on a server that Duo was protecting. With some manipulation and the possession of a valid cookie within the Duo platform, hackers were able to manipulate what was being sent through the browser. And then when they tried to log into the Office 365 account, they were never prompted with a Duo login because they pushed this cookie through, and that cookie made it appear that this was an already authenticated person. So these Office 365 accounts were accessed, even though Duo protections were there, they were still accessed by these criminal hackers because they had access to the network at a very high level and were able to find out what this secret was between the Duo system and the actual server. And once they achieved that, then they were able to use this cookie to circumvent anything that Duo was doing. And there's a lot of chatter going on out there about this. Security researchers have informed Duo that this exists, and Duo has basically said that this isn't our problem, because unless they had this higher level of access to the network, they would have never been able to use this exploit. So, be careful out there and how much stock you put in MFA, when you can basically, it's a pretty easy hack if you know what you're doing, to basically impersonate a session or a session ID. And I don't want to get too technical on this channel, but really you're just impersonating, basically, if, think about it, if you shake somebody's hand, there's a level of trust there. And now that you have that trust, you can go to other places to get into the system, and it goes, oh, well, we already trust you. And really, they manipulated that trust. It wasn't really a proper authentication. They took that trust from somewhere else, and then they were able to manipulate things within their computer and browser to trick the system to make it think like they were already an authenticated entity accessing the Office 365 accounts. So I just wanted to point that out because I think that was really important. I know I spent a lot of time discussing that, but I don't think that that's something a lot of people are aware of and are talking about yet, but I believe that you're going to hear a lot about that very soon in the very near future. So moving on, the initial breach disclosure from SolarWinds came 5 days after the cybersecurity incident from FireEye, which we already know. And not only did FireEye admit that they use Orion, but they also admitted that some 300 proprietary software tools that the company provides to clients to help secure their IT operations were stolen. So on December 13th, also news broke that the SolarWinds hack resulted in attackers reading the email communications at U.S. Treasury and Commerce Departments, which I've already dove into. And then Reuters reported the SolarWinds intrusion had also been used to infiltrate computer networks at Homeland Security. That disclosure came less than 24 hours after DHS's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure AG took the unusual step of issuing an emergency directive ordering all federal agencies immediately disconnect the affected Orion products from their networks. So then we have Microsoft. Microsoft seems to be getting involved with trying to stop criminal activity when they can. Obviously, we know about their involvement with the TrickBot botnet network that they tried to take down, and now they got involved again. If you remember in the first video I did, I mentioned the avsvmcloud.com domain that these criminal hackers were using as their command and control server for this hack. And what Microsoft has done is taken control of that domain. So a couple of things are going to come out of that. Number one, Microsoft's going to know pretty much what customers are using this Orion platform and have it active, because now that Microsoft has control of it, they can see where the traffic is coming from and then do a trace on that IP address to figure out who the customer is and let them know that they have the version of Orion that has been reporting to this command and control server that until yesterday was under control of criminal hackers. The only issue with this is that a lot of companies and systems and endpoint protections and firewalls are going to be blocking access to this domain. So the Orion software may still be on the servers, but they're not reporting to the cloud server that Microsoft has taken control of, simply because the security precautions that have been put in place since this hack was announced and the domain was made public, which made security vendors for endpoint protection and firewalls and web content filtering to block this domain as a malicious endpoint. And you know, that's a little bit of a problem, because it would be nice just to be able to get those IP addresses and let those companies know that they are compromised. The other interesting thing is that FireEye or GoDaddy didn't respond to any questions about the malicious domains. GoDaddy is actually where the domain was registered, and it'd be interesting to see if GoDaddy has any information on who registered this particular domain that these criminal hackers were using. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here with this SolarWinds hack, because there's a lot of moving parts to this. You have the federal government, CISA, telling all the federal agencies to turn off the software, and that begs the question, do they ever turn it back on? And then the other thing is this could really be the nail in the coffin for SolarWinds and open them up to need to exit the space and maybe sell their company off, because the Orion product that they use is it brings in about $350 million for their company, And that's roughly about 45% of their revenue. So SolarWinds loses that piece of their business. It could be a huge hit for them. And I don't know if they would be able to survive that, not to mention all the lawsuits that are coming against this company. And I imagine, since this software was used in the United States federal government, that this is going to draw the attention and ire of lawmakers, and we are going to see some probably very far-reaching laws put in place around companies that provide cybersecurity and network management type products to not only the federal government but private industry as well. Because as you can see, we are all in one big ecosystem. There is no private and public sector when it comes to security. We're all in this together. We need to work together, because a private entity could get hacked, which could lead to a government getting hacked. There's no firewall between public and private industry when it comes to networks and network security. The same private companies are the United States federal government is the biggest outsourcer in the world, and they hire private companies. So when you do that, there's no difference. So you can't have a higher level of standard for security practices at the government level and not have it at the private level. And making companies kind of create two separate networks or do things differently for their government customers versus their private industry customers, in my opinion, is not the solution. It's something that happens quite commonly in business, and unfortunately, segregating the network and doing more in one part of your network versus another part of your network just because you serve a different customer doesn't make a lot of sense. You should be practicing the same high level of security practices throughout your entire company, because as you can see, things like this happen, and accounts that you feel like are secure or things that you feel like are separated can be manipulated. Things can be tricked. Computers can be tricked. Remember, all of this stuff is built by human beings, and human beings are prone to mistakes, blind spots, oversight, whatever you want to call it. This stuff isn't perfect. It's only been around for less than 50 years, right? We still have a lot to learn around technology, and we all need to step up our game on security and start looking at things and how we manage things and how we do things a lot differently and better than we do it today. So that's where I'm going to leave it. I hope you found this information valuable. If you did, please remember to hit the like button. If you made it this far, hit subscribe on our channel, and we'll come at you with some more updates as soon as we have them.